Hi everyone, we're from American Institute of Chemical Engineers, otherwise known as AIChE at Purdue.
And today what we're going to be doing is making paint from milk. And so my name is Tyler Roberts.
And my name is Monica Keither.
And we're going to get started. So the first thing that you're going to do is take roughly half a liter of milk. You can do a little more, a little less, depending on what you need, and just change the other ingredients accordingly. But you're going to start to bring it to a bit of a boil. So right now we're using some special hot plate and some beakers and stuff like that, but you can just do this on the stove with whatever materials you have. But you're basically just going to want to take your milk and you're going to start heating it up onto your stove until it starts to boil. Okay, so the milk is getting pretty close to boiling now. It's about 190 degrees Fahrenheit. For when you're doing this, you don't have to get the temperature exactly, just get it definitely so that it's hot enough that it's getting close to boiling. And now the next step is that we're going to add vinegar to this.
Alright, so now we're going to gradually add about 50 milliliters of the vinegar while stirring.
All right, so the next step is that we're going to take a normal coffee filter and we're going to use it inside of our funnel. And in order to get into the funnel, you can essentially just set it in there. You can carefully push down a little bit and you'll notice on the sides it starts bending a little. So you're just gonna kind of push the sides to the side so that now it perfectly fits inside of your funnel. And once we have that ready to go, then we can start pouring our mixture through the funnel, and you'll notice that as you added the vinegar to the hot milk, you start to get all these different solids inside of there, and that's what we want. We want to trap the solid. So whenever you're ready, normally we suggest that you put this inside of a cup as you do this, just so you don't have to have multiple people, but I'm just going to hold it so that we can pour it in. And so you'll notice as you start to pour it in that the liquid is going to come out, but the solid is going to stay inside of it. And this might take a little bit in order to get through all of your mixture, but then essentially you're just going to want to pour out your entire mixture into this just so that we have the solid left.
Alright, now that we've drained out all of our liquid, we have a bunch of solid left over, just taken right out of the filters, and it's ready to go for the next step. Alright, so we now have some crushed chalk. The way we went about this was taking 2 whole pieces of chalk, putting them in here, and using this as sort of a mortar and pestle to grind it down. And you want it to be a fine powder. A little bit of bits here and there that's not exactly fine is okay, but as fine as possible. And then we're going to go ahead and dump it into the solid. Then mix it up.
And so something that you'll notice as you start mixing it in is that it still likes to stay as a solid sometimes. It gets a little bit kind of like crumbly, but it likes to stick together and doesn't become as much of a liquid as you would like in order for it to like spread easily. And if that happens, you can add a little bit of water to it. But as you add water, make sure to do it very slowly, because if you get to a certain point and you add too much water, it's going to be too liquidy for the protein to hold on to your pigment well enough.
Alright, so now we have added a substantial amount of water, and as you're doing that, remember to continue mixing thoroughly. And you should get to a point where it is mostly liquid. There's going to be some chunks in it, but that's okay.
Yeah, this is the consistency that you're looking for, is that as you stir it, it definitely looks like a liquid. You might have a little bit of chunks when you spoon it like this, but you can notice how it's still holding on to the color very well and it's spread throughout. So it's essentially one solid color that you can paint with.
Okay, and here you can see the color shows up. We got some smiley faces on our paper. Alright, so what we made here is considered a paint, and a paint is made up of both a pigment and a binder. Our binder comes from the milk, and the pigment comes from the paint. And we're going to go into more further detail of both these steps.
So the way that we made our binder is it's a protein called casein, and you find it inside of milk. But inside of milk, it's normally trapped by the water, which is why you look at milk and it's white and it's thicker, a little bit thicker than water, but you don't really see anything. It's always a liquid. So to free it, what we did is we added vinegar, which is an acid. And when you add it into it, it frees the casein from the water, which is why when you added the vinegar, it starts to become a solid. And once it's in that state, you can filter it to extract the solid from the liquid, so you just have the stuff you want, which is our binder.
And now that we had our binder, we then added our chalk, which is our pigment. And we use chalk because it's super brightly colored, so the pigment's really easy to see. And after that, you can just mix your binder and your pigment together, add some water, and you end up with a paint.